Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another video podcast from the PNT Live Network. Tonight's installment will be an episode of Porn Law News. And for those of you out there who are interested in learning about how the adult entertainment industry intertwines with the legal sphere, you may want to pop on over to pornlawnews.com. That particular website is just getting started, but as I continue with podcasts pertaining to the legalities when it comes to the American pornographic industry, I will be posting a lot of what I talk about in these podcasts on that website. So make sure that you do bookmark it. Now, before I get started, I want to talk a little bit about my personal situation right now when it comes to my social media, because my personal situation, ironically, has to do with what? Porn law news. As many of you know, over the years, I have documented quite a bit when it comes to my observations, thoughts, opinions, and experiences when it comes to my time in the adult entertainment industry and certain things that I went through upon my departure and my rebuilding of my life outside of that world. Now, even though I have actually 1.5 jobs right now that I work on a daily basis, I do continue with my independent investigative blogging when it comes to elements of the adult entertainment industry. But ironically, quite a few people who I know for a fact I made quite a bit of money for over the years when I was working in the adult entertainment industry don't like that I am exposing some of their activity. Legitimate exposure, by the way, things that they've actually exposed of themselves but don't want anyone to draw attention to. And because I've exposed certain things, as of current, there are people who are very knowledgeable when it comes to the legalities of being able to either justly or unjustly get a person such as myself's social media closed. Now, I've been on social media for a long time. Actually, since before social media was even social media. Okay, I actually believe that it's people like me, maybe even me specifically, who has helped to create certain guidelines when it comes to social media. So I'm really hoping that the individuals who run social media will look at my particular situation and see it for what it is. But if not, and my social media accounts on certain platforms are closed, I've reached a point in my life to where I just don't have much of an interest to continue fighting and fighting and fighting when it comes to something that really, it's just going to take more people in far more powerful positions than myself to change. So we will see what happens. But like I said, it's interesting that it's people who I've made money for and who make money off of many of the issues that I do expose or that I bring to light have an issue with it being brought to light. Everyone who I speak about on the PNT Live Network is a public figure. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to research them. Okay? But gosh, so many of these public figures that I talk about are so misogynistic, so sociopathic, and embody such a high level of narcissism that if something is said about them that is completely out of their control, they can't handle it. And they feel like, well, if reality isn't what I say it is, then I'm going to destroy anything that's countering the reality that I believe is. So, yeah, that is what I am contending with. But, I'll tell you, I have earned the right to speak about whatever it is that I choose to speak about. Because I think to myself, considering that I have never received mainstream entertainer type residuals for the adult content that I elected to participate in between the years of 2008 to about 2011, then you know, what gives? So anyway, yeah, I feel like, you know, if you can't pay me in currency, then I think that just as you sold my soul at this stage in the game, you need to give a little bit of your soul to me in return. But let's go ahead and continue with this particular podcast of Porn Law News. Now, tonight, we are going to talk specifically about a company known as D&E Media. D&E Media is known as a pornography company. I believe that they distribute their content exclusively online. I don't believe that they actually sell DVDs, but they are based out of the New Jersey area, which is interesting because even though some might argue, oh, it's legal to create pornography anywhere in the United States, most states, aside from New Hampshire and California, have certain obscenity laws in place to where if a certain lawmaker decides that you shouldn't be creating adult content in that state, it will be lumped under obscenity. And to my knowledge, New Jersey does have such legalities and legislation and laws in place, right? But for some reason, and if you take a look at pornlawnews.com, you'll learn a few things about this situation. For some reason, D&E Media is able to distribute online their adult content, which, as I said, is classified currently as pornography, but in actuality needs to be labeled as a new term, and that term being abuseography. Why? Because, at least from my perspective, the content that D&E Media produces is no more than an excuse to depict some of the most horrific abuse you would ever see of women. And specifically, some of the most horrific and degrading abuse you would ever see when it comes to women of color. D&E Media has quite a few websites. They have Ghetto Gaggers, FacialAbuse, Latina Abuse, Radical Jislam, Black Payback, and I think some others that just aren't in my mind right now. But these particular websites, from my perspective, they have no artistic merit, none. From what I've heard, allegedly, some of the quote-unquote depiction of abuse, which they showcase in their online content, is in actuality real abuse. There have been allegations of the operators of D&E Media threatening the women who they film if they ever come forward, or if they were to ever come forward, in regards to what they endured during a D&E Media video or photo shoot. So over the past few months, since another independent investigative blogger and podcaster and veteran adult actress known as Melissa Hill has brought to light some of her concerns in regards to D&E Media, I've really been researching and looking more into the company myself.
And I want women to know, who are thinking about coming into the industry, or who have already started in the industry, I want them to know who to stay away from. Stay away from D&E Media LLC. Go get a pen and paper or whatever. Write this down right now. Anyone who's working with upcoming performers, please tell everyone you know, stay away from D&E Media LLC.
I have noticed that the threats that have been ongoing really since I left the adult entertainment industry, and I never even worked for D&E Media, okay? I've just spoken out and people didn't like it. But since I have tackled the issue of D&E Media, I have noticed that the threats against me and my family have increased. And I have noticed that some of the videos that I've posted in regards to some of the issues surrounding D&E Media have been flagged, even though they have not been removed from social media. So as we move forward with this situation, it's going to be interesting. But what I wanted to really discuss tonight in regards to D&E Media is the fact that at least starting around the year of 2010, from what I have been able to find, the company officially established itself in 2006. But since the year of 2010, a office of the United States government has essentially labeled the content of D&E Media as being obscene and as being vulgar and as being offensive. So the question is this particular legal situation that I'm going to share with many of you tonight something that could be utilized as the foundation to create a solid obscenity case against D&E Media, which could theoretically not only label what they create as abuseography, but also label what they create as obscenity, which would in turn force the operators of D&E Media to face certain legalities, fines, and or do some prison time. So what I'm about to share with you is a decision from the United States Patent and Trademark Office. This was mailed to D&E Media's legal representation February 3rd of 2010. And I found this particular legal filing through the TAB Center, which is the Trademark Trial and Appeal Board's website. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you because, as you can see, it's like 30 pages long, okay? But what I am going to read to you are a few imperative parts. But if you want to read this for yourself, I do have it linked up on Porn Law News. Just look for the article titled, "The United States Trademark and Patent Trial and Appeal Board Deems the Operator of Facial Abuse Vulgar and Offensive in 2010. Grounds for Obscenity." All right, now in 2010, it appears that D&E Media, aka FacialAbuse's legal representation, was a lawyer known as Joseph D. Aubenberger of Aubenberger and Associates. But what's interesting about this, as you will hear, is that Aubenberger failed to legitimize the trademark for D&E Media. All right. And he wasn't the only lawyer that they've had that has failed to do this. Just as of recent, their current legal representation, which is quite the character, known as Michael Fattorosi, a lawyer who is known for advising the porn industry's most notorious racist and homophobic hate crime, actually, he attempted to refile and get this trademark of facial abuse for D&E Media legitimized, but again, it was rejected as of July 19th of 2019, this year. So I'm just going to read to some of you some imperative parts of this legal filing, okay? These appeals from the final refusals of the trademark examining attorney involve Section 2A of the Trademark Act, 15 U.S.C. 1052A, which precludes registration of marks that consist of or comprise immoral or scandalous matter. Applicant seeks registration based on use and commerce of the marks. Application serial number 76669945 and FacialAbuse. Application 76669946, both for adult entertainment services, namely providing an adult entertainment website featuring photographic, audio, and video presentations in International Class 41. Because these cases present common issues of law and fact, we have consolidated these appeals for decision. We affirm the refusal in both applications. Okay, and then the filing goes on, but I do want to read to you guys this particular element from Section 2, which is titled Record, Part A. Examining attorney's evidence. Now, they specifically focus on the term facial. And here's the definition that is incorporated into this filing. When a man ejaculates on someone's face, used in the phrase, give a facial. And then they reference the online sex dictionary. Then they point out the term abuse, to hurt or injure by maltreatment, ill use, to force sexual activity on, rape or molest, to assail with contemptuous, coarse, or insulting words. And they take that from the American Heritage Dictionary. Then they quote the Urban Online Dictionary, which is interesting. Facial abuse, the act of sexually humiliating your partner by abusing and degrading her face during rough oral sex by holding her head deep on your genitalia, slapping her face, and talking to her in a degrading manner during the process. So now I'm just going to skip ahead to the conclusion. Conclusion. We have carefully considered all the evidence of record in the arguments made by applicant and examining attorney, including that which has not been specifically discussed. We conclude that the evidence of record is sufficient to establish prima facie that the term facial abuse is vulgar and, quote, shocking to the sense of decency or propriety, end quote, and is offensive to a substantial composite of the general public, and that applicant has not rebutted this showing. Decision. The refusals to register under Trademark Act 2A are accordingly affirmed. So, like I said, being that we have a United States official office that has opted to make the firm decision through even their appeal board that D&E Media's trademark, let alone their content, is offensive and vulgar, essentially obscene, how is it that from within the United States, they're able to continue the production of this abusive material that is so detrimental to how women are perceived, specifically women of color? Is it just that the right attorney hasn't taken this issue to task? Because it does seem like this particular legal filing could be grounds for an obscenity claim against D&E Media. Like I said, it does appear that their current attorney, who has registered some of their other trademarks successfully, but has not been able to get the trademark for facial abuse legalized or officiated, did try to resubmit this, it looks like around 2018, July 27th of 2018. But as of current, if you take a look at the Justia website, that particular status for this trademark is status number 602, abandoned, failure to respond or late response. Yeah, it's very interesting, actually, that that particular attorney, Michael Fattorosi, would even be the attorney for D&E Media, considering how degrading they are to Black women. It really makes me question his relationship with his wife, who at least superficially appears to be a Black woman, but you know, superficialities do not always reflect who you are on the inside. especially if you are a victim of abuse who has been broken down for years and years and years. Could be the case. So anyway, that's about it for this particular installment of Porn Law News. I hope that some of you out there found it interesting. If you would like to see what I covered, or at least the links to what I covered in this particular podcast, make sure that you do pop on over to pornlawnews.com and make sure that you check out pntlive.net, because there are quite a few interesting podcasts on a myriad of topics over there. Also, I have some interesting information and podcasts featured from an acquaintance of mine, Miss Melissa Hill. And those of you out there who might be looking for a home for your podcast, maybe you're just getting started, maybe you're already established, it doesn't matter. If you feel that your energy vibes with mine, holler. You know, give me a shout, and maybe you can be a part of the PNT Live Network as well. So anyways, have a great evening, everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And remember, live your life according to the golden rule. Treat others the way that you would want to be treated. Have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.